Hi everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. Now I'm continuing the series of my top 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 albums from 1965 to 1989, and this one is going to be 1968. It won out on the poll with 66 and 86. Now I've actually haven't done a top 10 yet, and I don't think I will be doing a top 10, so I don't understand why I keep on saying top 10, but this is a top 20, and I have 3 bubbling unders as normal. Now I could have made a top 25 or a top 30 for this, so with the bubbling unders I am actually going to include 3 albums by artists that aren't in the top 20, because there's been a lot of 2 releases in 1968 by many different bands. So my 3 bubbling unders are The Doors, Waiting for the Sun. I struggle a wee bit with The Doors. Waiting for the Sun's not a bad album. I do obviously like Hello I Love You, which was their biggest hit here in the UK, and I also like Love Street, and Spanish Caravan is one of my favourite tracks off it. It's a good album. It's not my favourite Doors album, but I do have to be in the mood for The Doors. And the second bubbling under is the Velvet Underground, White Light, White Heat, which I always thought was from 1967, but it is actually 68, released in January 1968. And there's some really good tracks on this, like the title track and I Heard Her Call My Name, although the guitar in that's really tough to listen to. It goes on a little bit too much, and I really do like Lady Godiva's Operation. However, there's some songs on it that I just struggle with, like Sister Ray and The Gift. But generally it's okay if, again, you're in the mood for it. And this third one is also one of those if you're in the mood for it albums, and it's Jimi Hendrix and Electric Ladyland. Now, I'm not a blues fan, and the Voodoo Child song, which lasts about 14.5 minutes, I just can't take. But I do love Crosstown Traffic, and Burning the Midnight Lamp I think is fantastic, and of course All Along the Watchtower as well. And there's a Noel Redding song on it, and I can't remember the name of it, which I really do like, which he sings as well. Well, I think it's Noel Redding, but it's okay. It's a bit too long, and the bluesy numbers tend to put me off. Okay, top 20, and my number 20 is from the Monkees, and it is The Birds, the Bees and the Monkees. And this is the one with Daydream Believer, which is a karaoke special over here, which is very good, and I think Valerie is the other big hit off this. But there's some really good songs on here, like Dream World's very, very good, and Auntie's Municipal Court. However, the song We Were Made for Each Other, I think it's the Davy Jones sung one, which is a bit sappy. Tapioca Tundra, I think, is very, very good. I'll Be Back on My Feet's fine. P.O. Box 9847, I think that's a Mickey Dolenz one, which is okay as well. And Magnolia Sims is okay. It's not a bad album. I actually quite like these Monkees albums. I've been playing them quite a bit this year, and they are better than what I obviously thought, and it just sneaks in at number 20. At number 19, and I think Mr. Lloyd Boone will be disappointed it's so low, but it's still in the top 20, and it's the Small Faces Ogden's Not Gone Flake. This is half a really good album and a half a really annoying album. The first side, it opens up with the title track, which is a decent instrumental. Then you get the fantastic Afterglow of Your Love, which is really, really good. Long Ago and Worlds Apart is very good, and Rennie is sung in like a Cockney accent. Who is it? Steve Marriott singing it. Song of a Baker is probably one of the best on this, after Afterglow, and Lazy Sunday is the big hit off this. Lazy Sunday Afternoon, nah, it's really Cockney as well. But it's the side 2 that sort of annoys me. It's called Happiness Stan. Is that to do with Ogden, Stan Ogden? No, I don't think so. And there's some really good tracks on it, like Rolling Over's got a really good riff. The Journey's very good. Mad John's great. And Happy Days Toy Town is just a Cockney knees up, but there's narrative that goes through this, the whole of side 2, and it's ridiculous English, and on first listen it's quite funny, on second listen it's not quite as funny, and on third listen it's bloody annoying, but still it's a pretty good album. #1 album I believe as well, so that's my number 19, Small Faces, Ogden's Not Gone Play. At number 18 we have Bob Dylan and John Wesley Harding. This is an odd album because this came after Blonde on Blonde and before Nashville Skyline. His voice had changed, but not to the extent it had on Nashville Skyline. The big song off this is All Along the Watchtower, which I really do like Dylan's version. I actually prefer it to Jimi Hendrix's, and I'll Be Your Baby Tonight was a big hit for Robert Palmer and UB40. The Wicked Messenger is also one of my favourites, although the harmonic in that is ear piercing. It really is. It really does hurt the ears, but it's still a great little song. The Ballad of Frankie Lee and Judas Priest is one of my favourites. I Dreamt I Saw St Augustine and As I Went Out One Morning. I think side 1 on this is slightly better than side 2. It's an odd Dylan album. I never know where to put this because it's not like what came before and it's not like what came after, but it's still pretty good, and it gets my number 18. And at number 17 we're going to give it to Status Quo and their debut album Picturesque Matchstickable Messages from the Status Quo. And yeah, this has got 2 big hits on it, Pictures of Matchstick Men, which I think was their only hit in the US, and Ice in the Sun, which I think was written by Marty Wilde, not 100% sure. But I love this first song, Black Veils of Melancholy, which is almost exactly the same as Pictures of Matchstick Men, but it's got a slightly more catchy riff to it. Technicolor Dreams is a really good track off this. Elizabeth Dreams is good. Gentleman Joe's Sidewalk Cafe, very good. And they also do a version of the Bee Gees' Spicks and Specks. It is a psych album. It's not the Status Quo boogie that you got in the 1970s. And the first 2 Quo albums are very good. I think I prefer the second one, Spare Parts. There's another track off here, Green Tambourine. And was that done by the Lemon Pipers? I'm not sure, but it's a very good version. So Status Quo and Picturesque Matchstickable Messages from the Status Quo. Very difficult to say. It gets my number 17. At number 16, and I am giving it to the Supremes, actually Diana Ross and the Supremes, and this is their first album with the billing Diana Ross and the Supremes, and it's Reflections. And it has the big hit Reflections, which the Sweet covered. Love the song, really good. Side 1 on this is more of the sort of Supremes-y type Holland Dozier Holland songs, and then side 2 is more or less other songwriters, although there is a Holland Dozier Holland one in this as well. I'm going to Make It, I Will Wait For You, I think it's great. Forever Came Today, I think it's great as well, and I Can't Make It Alone. Then we get one of my all-time favourite Supreme songs, and it's In and Out of Love. Absolutely love it. On side 2 she does What the World Needs Now Is Love, which is the Bacharach David song, and Up, Up and Away, and I think that's Jimmy Webb's song, and they're both brilliant. Then, just called Then, is I believe another Holland Dozier Holland song, which is very good, but she does one song that I just don't like, and I've never liked it, and it's Ode to Billy Joe, and that is the Bobby Gentry song, which I've never been keen on. But this is a really good album with very little filler, so the Supremes gets my number 16. At number 15, and I'm giving it to the Beach Boys and Friends, and this is almost like their forgotten about album. There's no big hits on this at all, and it is so short. I think this is under 30 minutes. Meant For You is, I think, less than a minute long, the opener, which is beautiful. Friends is a really good track. Wake the World, I think, is so uplifting. Really do like it. Be Here in the Morning is another really good one, and I like the song Little Bird, which I think is the Dennis Wilson one. Yeah, it is. And Anna Lee the Healer is very, very good. The only one I'm not that keen on is Transcendental Meditation, and I think that must be, oh no, it's Mike Love, Brian Wilson and Al Jardine, but it does nothing for me. But overall, really, really good album, and it gets my number 15. At number 14, and we have the Idle Race and their debut album, The Birthday Party, and this is the band that Jeff Lynne was in before he moved to The Move and then on to ELO. And yeah, this is really quirky, Beatley type pop. The Skeleton in the Roundabout opens this. It sounds like, if you ever saw the Magic Roundabout, a children's TV show, it sounds a bit like that. Happy Birthday going into the birthday is very good. I Like My Toys is a jaunty little number as well. You get really good songs like Follow Me Follow, which is one of their all-time best tracks. On with the Shows, quirky. Lucky Man is very good. And The Lady Who Said She Could Fly, I think, is fantastic, and a really good vocal from Jeff Lynne. And it finishes with End of the Road, which again is a very quirky number. Yeah, I think this is a really good album, and those two Idle Race albums with Jeff Lynne I think are excellent. The third one, after he left, you know, forget about it, it's just not the same band. So Idle Race and The Birthday Party gets my number 14. And at number 13, and just ahead of it, is the debut album by The Move. And this is actually quite similar, but this is Roy Wood's band, and they are sort of quirky, Beatley numbers as well. Like Yellow Rainbow is as catchy as hell. Kilroy Was Here's another great song. The hit singles off this are Flowers in the Rain and Fire Brigade, which are both very good. But my favourite tracks off this are like Walk Upon the Water, really, really catchy, and Mist on a Monday Morning, I think is great, and The Girl Outside is a very, very good song. Useless Information, not as keen on, and the original version of Cherry Blossom Clinic is on this, but is not as good as the expanded version that they re-recorded really for the next album, Shazam. So The Move gets my number 13. And at number 12 we have the Moody Blues, In the Search of the Fourth Chord. Yeah, this is their second album after Justin Hayward and John Lodge joined. The big hit off this is Ride My Seesaw. Well, I don't even think it was a hit, but it's the most well-known song. Again, I really do like the Ray Thomas songs, like Dr. Livingstone, I presume, I think is very, very good. And then you get The House of Four Doors Part 1 going into Legend of the Mind, which I just called Timothy Leary, and then going back into House of Four Doors Part 2. They have a wild habit of doing that, is having one song, Part 1, another song, and then going back to the same song to do a Part 2. Sorry, there was a hit off this, I missed it, and it's Voices in the Sky, the Justin Hayward song, which I think is a beautiful song with a lot of flute and acoustic guitar. The Best Way to Travel, the Mike Pinder song, is possibly the best off this, and I do like The Actor, the other Justin Hayward track, and at the very end, which is a Pinder Thomas number. So the Moody Blues, In Search of the Fourth Chord, gets my number 12. And number 11, and we have The Who and The Who Sellout, and this is the one with all the little jingles and adverts in between the songs, which doesn't annoy me. I actually quite like it. I love the opener, Armenia City in the Sky, which wasn't written by any of them. I think it was written by a friend of them. Mary Ann with the Shaky Hand, absolutely fantastic. Tattoo and Our Love Was, really good tracks. And then the highlight by a mile is I Can See for Miles, really excellent track and one of the heaviest songs, you know, around that time. And then I think Paul McCartney wrote Helter Skelter in reply to that, could be wrong, not sure. I Can't Reach You's a good pop song, and Rail 1 and 2 is very good. I really do like the Heinz Baked Beans. I think it's really funny, and every time I hear it I still laugh. So you know, it's unlike that Small Faces Side 2. This one does actually make me laugh, and Oda Roma is good fun as well. So the Who get my number 11 with Who Sell Out. And at number 10 we have the Bee Gees and Idea, and in America it was a completely different cover. It was a white cover with their faces, and it also included I've Got to Get a Message to You, which is not on this, even though it's a slightly different version to the single version. But there's still some really great tracks off here, like Let There Be Love. I think is a really excellent opener. It is a ballad, and I love the way that Barry sings the verses and the chorus, and then after a chorus Robin comes in and sings a chorus, and it sounds so different. His voice is so deeper, it just works so well. Kitty Can, Little Good, a catchy acoustic number. In the Summer of His Years is a good track. Indian Gin and Whiskey Dry is another Robin sung song which is catchy. Down to Earth, really good song. And I really do like the song Such a Shame, which was written by Vince Maloney and sung by Vince Maloney. Really, really good. When Swallows Fly, another beautiful song. I've decided to join the Air Force. It's not one of the best ones for me. It's quirky, but it just doesn't quite work. And the big one off this is I Started a Joke with Robin, and it's an absolutely beautiful song. It wasn't released over here as a single, but it should have been. I think it was a big hit in America. So the Bee Gees' Idea gets my number 10. And this is their second album of 68. The first one was Horizontal, which just failed to make the top 20. So number 10. And at number 9, it is the Byrds and the Notorious Byrd Brothers. Yeah, Artificial Energy with all the horns, absolutely love it. Going Back, absolutely brilliant version of the Goffin King song. And the other Goffin King song, Wasn't Born to Follow, which I think is great, and it was on that film Easy Rider, I believe. Haven't seen it, but I think it was on it. Draft Morning, pretty good. Changes Now, another really good song. Old John Robertson is a re-recorded version of a B-side, and I can't remember the name of the A-side, but it's not as good as that because there's a lot of phasing in that, which is not quite as good. Dolphin Smile, pretty good. Space Odyssey, I just can't be bothered with. This is very, very, very good album, and again, the Byrds had another one this year, Sweetheart of the Rodeo, which is just pure country music, and it failed to get my top 20. So, Notorious Byrd Brothers, number 9. Okay, number 8, and you may think this is low for me, but I'm going to go with Transource Rex and Prophets, Seers and Sages, The Angels of the Ages. Getting the bad thing out first, and it is Scene Scoff Dynasty. The last track is absolute garbage, but there's nothing bad off this at all. Like, it starts off with Deborah Robed, which is Deborah, with Deborah written backwards stuck on the end, and it's a slightly different version to the single version. Okay, not as good as the single. Stacey Grove, very catchy. Conasuela, possibly my favourite Transource Rex song of all time, and Salamanda Palaganda is brilliant. And then there's 3 tracks in a row here on side 2, Oh Harley, Eastern Spell and The Travelling Tradition, which I think are absolutely magnificent. It's a very, very, very good album, but it still only gets my number 8, and it's slightly eclipsed by my number 7, which is also Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's their debut. My people were fair and had sky in their hair, but now they're content to wear stars in their brows. No hit singles off this at all, but you do get a little bit more of a rock and rolly feel to this, with acoustic guitars and bongos, if you can believe it, with the tracks Hot Rod Mama and Mustang Forward. But then you get your normal standard, very hippie, trippy T-Rex tracks like Afghan Woman, Child Star is beautiful, Scene Scoff, very, very catchy, Chateau in Virginia Waters is beautiful, Wielder of Words is catchy, Graceful Fat Sheba, Night, all really good songs. However, with these 2 Tyrannosaurus Rex albums, you will not like them on first listen. It's taken me years to like these. I bought these in, well, not this copy, I bought this as a double set with Prophets, Seers and Sages back in 1980, and whenever I first heard it I thought, what have I done? But I kept playing it, and I just fell in love with both of them. So that's my number 7, My People Were Fair by Transource Rex. Now the big surprise for me, and I wouldn't have had this in the top 20 or a bubbling under about a month ago. I have been playing this recently, and I bought it about 2 years ago and was so underwhelmed by it. And I thought, what is all the fuss about? Because this was like a VC recommendation, because everyone goes on how good it is. I have to agree now, it is brilliant, and it is the Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle, and it's finally hit me. It's a bit like Pet Sounds. It took me ages to get to really like this. This is pop music really, with a little bit of psych thrown in. A lot of it's actually quite piano led. The first track, Care of Cell 44, I think is magnificent, plenty of guitars in it. A Rose for Emily and Maybe After He's Gone are both very good, well written melodic pop songs. The big track off this is Time of the Season, which is probably one of my least favourite off it, and it is probably the most psychedelic of the lot. But there's a track on here called Changes, which I think is magnificent, and the only way I can describe it is, especially the chorus, it sounds like old English folk. The chorus sounds as if it could be sung by Steel Eye Span, but the verses not so. You can just imagine dancing around apple trees and stuff like that there, but it's absolutely brilliant. This Will Be Our Year is really good. As sort of a little bouncy little number. I Want Her, She Wants Me, really good as well. Brief Candles is beautiful. It's a really, really good album. I'm new to this, so I am. So this might even go further up, or I might get sick of it and it'll fall down. But I have to put it really in the top 10, and I'm so amazed at how good this actually is. And it gets my number 6, Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. At number 5, and we have the Rolling Stones and Beggar's Banquet. And this is the one with Sympathy for the Devil and Street Fighting Man, 2 Stones classics. In fact, there's 2 more Stones classics on this. Jigsaw Puzzle, brilliant. Melanie covered that as well, and she did really well. And Stray Cat Blues. So there's 4 full-blown Stones classics. No Expectations is very good. Not quite a classic for me, as is Salt of the Earth and Factory Girl. What lets this down for me is 2 songs. Dear Doctor, with Jagger doing that, Southern States accent again, which annoys me, and Parachute Woman, which is just a blues number. But apart from those 2, absolutely magnificent. So Beggar's Banquet gets my number 5. At number 4, and we have Van Morrison and Astral Weeks, and this is Van Morrison, acoustic guitar, upright bass, which sounds out of tune half the time, but it works so well, and his so soulful voice. Astral Weeks, excellent track. Sweet Thing got on the Best of Van Morrison in 1990. It's probably the most accessible of all these. Young Lovers Do is another accessible one. Madame George is probably regarded as the best track off this, but my favourite is Ballerina. I absolutely love it. And Cypress Avenue is another great track. He didn't do any albums like this again. The next one was Moondance, which was more a band affair. This is very, very stripped back, but it's such a good album, so it gets my number 4. My number 3, and it is Simon and Garfunkel and Bookends. And side 1 is the story of really birth to death, and you have Save the Life of My Child, which is a really good sort of upbeat Simon Garfunkel track. It's actually quite sad about Save the Life of My Child, you know, cried the desperate mother. Then we have America, which is probably one of their best ever songs. Overs, I think, is beautiful. It's about, you know, a couple falling apart and they've nothing more in common. Then we get Voices of Old People, which is Art Garfunkel going into an old people's home and taping what the residents are saying, of their stories they're telling. It's a good idea, but it just doesn't work for me. I would have loved another song off this. And then Old Friends, which is a beautiful track, finishing off with the Bookends theme. Side 2 is filled with singles, and really they're just thrown together, but it still works. Faking It, the most underrated Simon Garfunkel single that nobody ever seems to remember. It never gets on any of their greatest hits. Mrs. Robinson, all-time classic, possibly their best track. Hazy Shade of Winter, I think is good, never been my favourite. And At the Zoo, I think is very catchy. But there's one little track on here called Punky's Dilemma, which I absolutely love. And I think it was offered to the film The Graduate, which was refused, and then went back and just did their old stuff. But I think it was planned to be on The Graduate, but it's absolutely cracking little number. And a lot of people's favourite Simon Garfunkel album, it's not mine, it's probably my second favourite or third favourite, but it's still good enough to get my number 3 for 1968. Now, number 2 and number 1, this is the problem I had, and I've been chopping and changing all week because I knew it was going to be 1968 that won this, and I'm going to go with my original choice, although it could change tomorrow. And my number 2 is White Album by the Beatles, and the reason why I'm actually keeping this at number 2, because there's some stuff off this I don't like. I don't care. Revolution 9 is absolute garbage, whether it's on the album or not, it's garbage. And I've never liked Good Night, the one sung by Ringo Starr. But this has fantastic tracks off it, obviously, like Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, brilliant, Glass Onion. My favourite track I think is Martha My Dear, which I've always loved. I do also love Ringo's Don't Pass Me By, and if it ever was a single album it would get on. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Savoy Truffle are 2 really good George Harrison songs, as is Piggies, it's fun. Blackbird, filled with classics. I'm not keen on Why Don't We Do It on the Road, but I do like Wild Honey Pie. So the Beatles, White Album, brilliant album, but it gets my number 2. which means my number one and my favourite album from 1968 is The Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society. Not a bad track off this. The very first track I actually heard from this was on a double compilation called The Collection. It's an old Hallmark album, and it was Animal Farm, and I absolutely loved it. And it leads off side 2. But side 1, Do You Remember Walter? Another great song. Picture Book, I know that was covered by somebody, but I can't remember who. Excellent. Even the bluesy Last of the Steam Powered Trains I like. Big Sky, fantastic. And then the last track on side 1 is Sitting by the Riverside, and he's a habit of doing those sort of lazy Sunday songs, which that's one of them, and it's one of the best. Side 2 with Animal Farm, of course, and Village Green, great. Starstruck, I think, might have been a single in some territories, should have been a single here. Then Phenomenal Cat is so funny. I think it's actually a genius song, and all of my friends were there. You'll never hear a bouncier song than that in your life. Wicked Annabella, that's the Dave Davis song, is very good. Then Monica, I think, is single material. Finishing off with People Take Pictures of Each Other. This is their best album from start to finish. Not a bad track off it, absolutely love it, and it is the best of 1968. Okay, so that's my top 20 from 1968. I hope you enjoyed that. I will put up another poll for the next one, and that will be up pretty soon. So that's me for now. All the best now. Bye bye.